Welcome to Busy Bee Woodworking. Today we're going to make a display case for a lightsaber, sword, baseball bat, whatever you like. So first we're going to start off by breaking down some cherry. Now that we've taken off that rough edge that was left after we joined it in plane, and come over to our miter saw and just square up the ends here, and then make the measurement and start cutting the dimensional sides. Now with that cut to length, we can rip it right down the middle. We'll get two perfectly matching sides. Well, we'll have to take a little bit more off, but you get the idea. Okay, so we inset the back of the cabinet, so don't forget that when you're trying to find the center point to put this Forstner bit down, and that's where the saber handle is going to come down and rest. So that's why that back line is right there, so we could draw the X and find the center here. But we just take our Forstner bit down, pretty decent amount. Remember, this is only 3/4 inch, so at most maybe a 1/2 inch down into it. And then on the saber that we have, the lightsaber, there's a little clip for your belt holder. And we just want to make enough room for that. So we just want to take a little notch out here, and we can come with our chisel, clear this out, and then that way the saber can slip down and the belt loop will go in there nicely and it won't knock over the lightsaber itself. You know, if I start using these hand tools much more, I'm going to have to at least sharpen these, or actually get a decent pair of chisels. Alright, so now that we have our two sides, our top and bottom cut, we can come back to the table saw because we want to put a dado in there, just enough to accept the 1/4 inch piece of ply that will serve as the backer of the cabinet. And to do that, we're just going to run all 4 pieces through and then slightly move our fence over because I'm too lazy to put a dado stack in. Make sure that it fits on a scrap, and then continue to run the 4 pieces through again. Now we can take our panel here, make a rough cut, almost to dimensional size on the width, and then we can dry fit check it, make sure it fits properly, and once it does, then we can come back and actually cut it to length. And now that we have the length and width cut for that back panel, we'll come back, do one more dry fit just to make sure it all comes together square. And then once we have that, we can come back and actually glue this thing up. So now you can always take a moment to play with the lightsaber, of course, but more importantly, make sure it fits. Now we can do our glue up here, and once again, we just use butt joint joinery on here. Nothing fancy at all, because it's all going to get covered with decorative trim and molding and stuff like that, so you don't really need to do anything more than a simple butt joint. Now, one little thing, this is only the second time I've used these little 90-degree clamps corner clamps here, and they just slide right down on the material and hold the two pieces at a perfect 90. And they've come in handy for these glue ups and clamp ups, so might want to take a look at those. So now we need to rip down a little piece here because we are going to make our own little trim pieces. And to do that, we're just going to come with our little trim router here. Now this is going to be the bottom piece, so I decided to just do a little just round over. Makes it look kind of like a base more. And then on the top, we'll do a combination of a couple of different routers bits there to dress it up a little bit more. And here's a little close-up of that base piece. So you can see the round over, but I did bring it down a little bit just so we get that little extra little step up there. Dresses it up just a little bit more. And now we can bring it to our piece and transfer our measurements to it. And remember, you'll want to miter these edges now. That way you can get a nice little fit there. But we're just going to simply slide the pieces in, and then on the back side it's just a nice little straight cut. And now we'll come to the top portion here, and we're going to do a combination of a couple of different router bits pieced together to really give it a nice top. A nice little quick tip here, you notice I don't take the full router bit off. I slowly step it in, and it avoids those burn marks. I did get a little bit one here that I have to sand out, but really it helps avoid it. And now we can trim that piece off, and we can bring it over and see how it's going to look for us, so we can start combining those two like I said. So at this point we're just looking at how much space we have to cover down below before we go ahead and make the next router bit cut into another piece here. That way we can get the full 3/4 of an inch covered. And because this one's so thin, we're going to come over to the bandsaw to cut it off because it's a much safer cut than using that table saw. Now we can finally start attaching the base portion just with some simple pin nails. The top portion though we're going to have to glue up, and they're going to be small pieces so you can't really clamp them. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually just take tape and glue them together like that and use the tape as a clamp. And then once that sets, then you can come and actually add it to the top, just like we're doing here on the bottom. And you can see how we can really make a unique trim piece by combining multiple router bits together to get this almost like a miniature crown look. Now that we got the main portion of the case built here, we can bring our attention now to the doors. And all we need to do is rip a couple of pieces down to the width that we want overall. And then we can make some quick chops on the table saw to get our stiles and rails all cut to length. Now we're going to take a little small scrap piece here though. We're just going to kind of round over it into it, and that's going to just go right on the top portion, and it'll give a nice place where the blade of the lightsaber can actually rest up against. Now to get in here and make sure it's square, we actually just took our actual square piece here, took it off the ruler, and that way we can get it in this tight little spot, and that way it'll line up properly. So we'll just put a little bit of glue in it and tack it with one pin in the middle so it'll hide, and I also decided to throw some tape over it. Now we can come back to our door, and we're going to do half lap joints on this. So I'm going to make some quick cuts because they're small pieces, so we're going to use the bandsaw here, and that's how we're going to get our joints lined up properly. Now, kind of bad placement to see the actual cut here, but you can see the piece sitting to the right of the screen there, and you can see that that's that half lap joint that we wanted. Now I decided my mind started going, and this is Mace Windu's lightsaber, so the blade is purple. So I thought, why not accent this piece a little bit with some purple hearts? So right here, I'm just cutting some real thin strips, and we're going to put that on the top and the bottom. And then I also made some plugs that we're going to dress up the door joints as well. Now you can see this is where we're going to attach that real thin strip of purple heart to the top and to the bottom. It's going to cover up, first of all, those little through cuts, as well as hide that there are butt joints underneath there. So now off camera, we went ahead and we glued up those joints for the door, and now we're just going to come in here with our router bit and put the little channel, and that's where the piece of glass or plexiglass, your choice, will inset into the door itself. Now you're going to have to come back with a chisel and just clean up those rounded edges in the corner, and then you can start getting the dimensions that you need for that piece. Now that we have that measurement taken, we can cut our piece of plexiglass down here. Now another little extra step here, we're going to cut a couple of real thin strips of purple heart down. And now we're going to attach those to the edges. So when the door's opened, it'll expose that purple heart. And then when the door's closed, you'll get a nice little inlay on the side of the display case. Now when we attach these, we're just going to use glue. We're not going to use any of the pin nails. So you're going to need a lot of clamps. A lot. Like I said, a lot. Okay, now if you remember back, I also made some purple heart plugs. Now, we're not going to go all the way through, we're just going to come with a Forstner bit slightly down into those half lap joints there, and we're going to kind of make a little faux look here, because it's not really hiding a screw, it's just to kind of add a little accent to it as well. But when you're doing this, just make sure that you try to line the grain up with the purple heart to the cherry. And that'll come out quite nice for you. Now once those are dry, we can come back here with our saw and trim it off. Make it nice and flush. And we'll have to do a slight bit of sanding. Now we're going to come in here and we're going to notch out for where our hinges are going to go. And I did a notch out in both the door as well as the cabinet. Now you could get away with maybe just notching it into the cabinet. I just like the look better when the door's open, that the hinge is flush on both the cabinet as well as the door. But it could save you a little bit of time if you just wanted to do into the cabinet. Now if you remember earlier, we inset that back panel a ½ inch. So what we're doing here is we're coming back with a piece of 1/2-inch ply. We're actually going to make a little French cleat, and we're going to glue that to the back, and that's how we're going to mount it initially to the wall. And you can see how the one piece that would go into the wall would just slide right up and hold that cabinet into place. Now we can come back and we can use our centering bit here. This one wasn't working so well, but it did the job. And then I came back and opened up the hole slightly bigger so I could come back with these brass screws and mount the hinges to the cabinet, and then come back and put the door and attach it. Make things easier on you, before you attach the door to the cabinet, you're going to want to put that piece of plexiglass in there. So all we did was use just some silicone, and then was able just to use a little bit of weight from our tools and add a piece of plexiglass. Also, before attaching, we're going to put this little handle to open up the door, so we can put a piece of scrap piece behind it so we don't get any blowout. And then we can come back and we're going to actually inset right there so that the screw won't be banging up against that piece of purple heart strip and ruining it there. So just a quick little countersink there. Now, depending on what width you made, your thickness you made your door, that screw might be a little bit long. They usually come with a couple screws. Neither of them were the proper size. So all I had to do was come with a little hacksaw and cut it down there so that the handle would tighten up properly. But now that that's complete, we can finally come back here and we can attach our door now to the cabinet. Now with the door attached, we can just get a little test with the lightsaber, make sure everything closes properly. And now we're going to come back here and we're going to add a magnet to the top and to the bottom, as well as a metal plate. And then that way it will secure the door shut when you don't want it open. We're just going to simply, though, line those up kind of in the center there. And we'll go ahead and inset that metal piece with a Forstner bit. And then we'll come back and we'll screw those into place. Now the magnet will just come and we'll use some quick super glue and get that done. Now after I installed these, I didn't like the look because I could not find these metal plates and screws in brass colored that the magnet would go to. So after I did the install and made sure it fit properly, I actually did remove them and hit them with a quick coat of spray paint. That way it matched the existing hardware. I did not, though, use the spray paint on the magnets. And to make this process a little bit easier on you, you could just add the super glue into the hole, then spray the magnet with the quick activator, so you won't have to stand here and hold it in place. As you can see in the background on my workbench, I do have the activator. I just don't know why I didn't use it. But it was only a few seconds I had to hold anyways. Now coming down the home stretch here, what we're going to do to hold the saber in place, but not permanently, because we want to be able to take it out and put it back where it goes. So we're just going to come in here with a couple of brass hooks, and then we're going to use picture frame wire to come across. That way the saber can slide down behind it, stay in place, and then when you want to take it out, you can slide it out. Okay, so we actually have the display case finished. We got the lightsaber finally put in there. It's kind of difficult to see on camera right there at the end, but we added some brass hooks, and then we added this wire. This is just wiring that you'd use on the back of a picture frame to help hang it. So we use that because this will actually allow the lightsaber to be taken out of the case. You can play around with it and then return it back and hold it in place here. So you got to twist it though the proper way to balance it. But once you get it, it stays relatively in place, pretty nicely. And then also, we got the purple blade, so we had to add that purple, well, you didn't have to, but I wanted to. Add that purple heart to kind of accent it. And you can see it really kind of glows with that cherry too. Really makes it pop well. So with the purple blade itself, the cherry and purple heart combination really was the way to go. It really pops real well. And then we just finished it with a natural finish. Came out spot on like I wanted it to. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little build video here, as I did. As you know from knowing me, I'm kind of a nerd, so I love Star Wars, and being able to do something like this is really cool. Just a fun project to even play around with the lightsaber. So, and if it's your first time here, we'd love to earn your subscription. It really helps us out as a channel. And for all you returning bees out there, thank you. We really appreciate the support that you guys give out to us in the social media community. So, well, until next time, thanks for buzzing by. Now you go make some dust.